back to the deep dive. Today we're getting into the 2011 film The Iron Lady.
Meryl Streep is Margaret Thatcher. A big one.
Exactly. But crucially for you listening, we're not here to relitigate Thatcher's time in office or, British politics.
Nope. Our focus is purely on the film itself, how it was put together, the performances, the message. We're using a really detailed review to guide us.
Right. Think of it as film analysis, looking at the critical reception and what the movie tried to say.
And the main hook, really, is how this film tackles legacy, power, but through the lens of, well, decline. Frailty, even.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the performance everyone talked about, Meryl Streep, Oscar-winning stuff.
Yeah, the review we're looking at calls it nothing short of brilliant. Standard praise, maybe, but there's a specific point it makes.
Which is?
It's not just about how she played Thatcher in her prime, the powerhouse politician.
Mm-hmm.
The brilliance, according to this critique, is especially evident in portraying her as the frail, failing old woman. That's where the real depth comes through.
So capturing the vulnerability was maybe even more impressive than capturing the strength.
That seems to be the argument. And it sets up a really interesting contrast with Jim Broadbent as Denis Thatcher.
Her husband, what was the issue there? The review wasn't as keen?
Not really. It acknowledges Broadbent as a great actor, of course. But the reviewer felt that compared to Streep's total transformation, well, he neither looked, sounded, or acted much like the Denis Thatcher I remember.
Oh, that's quite pointed. So Streep disappears, but Broadbent doesn't.
Kind of. The review makes this fascinating comparison, actually.
Go on.
It compared him to actors like Sean Connery or Hugh Grant. Always good, always on point, but maybe always playing a version of themselves.
Right. You see the actor first, the character second, so the star persona issue.
Exactly. That familiar warmth or style we associate with Broadbent maybe worked against the realism here, especially next to Streep being so unrecognizable.
You feel like you're watching Jim Broadbent acting as Denis's rather than just seeing Denis?
That seems to be the reviewer's take. It sort of breaks the spell a little bit.
Interesting. So this powerhouse lead performance, but maybe the central relationship feels a bit unbalanced because of the casting?
That's a good way to put it. Whether that imbalance was intentional to emphasize her isolation or just a casting mismatch.
Yeah.
The review leans towards it being a flaw, I think.
Okay, performance dynamics noted. Let's talk about the structure. This is where the film got maybe a bit controversial or confusing for some?
Definitely confusing. The review calls it that outright. It's not chronological at all.
How does it start then? Not with her rise to power.
No, completely the opposite. It opens with her as an elderly woman, clearly unwell, confused, trying to buy milk. She seems to have sort of wandered off from her carers.
Wow, okay, so it establishes the decline right from the get-go. That's the frame.
Precisely. The present day in the film is around 2011, about 8 years after Denis died, and it just keeps flashing back and forth.
Between this present-day confusion and memories of her past life.
Yes. And the review stresses this. The structure isn't meant to be stylishly non-linear like, say, Tarantino.
Right, not for coolness factor.
No. The confusion in the narrative structure is meant to mirror her confusion. It's designed to give you, the viewer, a sense of empathy for the shambling and upsetting aspects of daily life she's experiencing.
So it's a tool for connection, maybe even making the audience slightly uncomfortable to share her state.
I think that's the idea. You feel the fragmented memory, the disorientation alongside her.
But it still has to cover a lot of history, right? 60 years.
It does. And the review lists the big moments that flash by. Getting elected MP in '59, the miners' strikes, Falklands, poll tax riots, the Brighton bombing.
Huge historical touchstones. How does it fit those in if the focus is the present?
Well, that's the clever part, or maybe the critique's interpretation of it. They're almost treated as flashes. Quick memories, not deeply explored political dramas.
Because in her current state, they're just fleeting images, not the central reality.
Exactly. The review suggests the film deliberately downplays the political significance in favor of the personal struggle. All that power, all that history becomes secondary to the immediate reality of aging and loss.
That really reframes the film's purpose. It's not really a political history lesson.
Not primarily, no. And speaking of reframing, the director choice is interesting too. Phyllida Lloyd.
Who directed? Mamma Mia.
The very same.
Yeah.
Which is, quite a jump from ABA songs on a Greek island to the mental decline of Margaret Thatcher.
That's some tonal whiplash. It suggests the script and Streep really had to carry the weight.
Absolutely. It highlights how much relied on that central performance and the script's focus.
Okay, so this brings us to the core message, the big takeaway, according to this review, despite all the history packed in.
It's the present-day stuff that lands hardest. Those scenes have the most gravitas and are described as very sad at times.
Showing this incredibly powerful, often divisive figure as lonely, vulnerable.
Yes. Lonely, even though she has aides and family around. But lost in her own fading memories, talking to the ghost of Denis. The reviewer admits it's hard not to feel sympathy.
It strips away the political figure and forces you to see the human being underneath.
That seems to be the film's ultimate goal, as interpreted here. The aha moment isn't political. It's about the saddening reality of getting old, loss, and heartache over the death of loved ones.
A universal theme, something that affects everyone regardless of power or status.
Exactly. The review explicitly says, the problem of aging, and ultimately death, comes to us all. Politics fades, but this human reality remains.
Powerful. And the review connects this end stage back to her beginnings in politics, doesn't it? With a visual detail.
It does, yeah. A lovely detail. To show how unusual she was entering Parliament in 1959, there's that overhead shot the reviewer mentions.
What was it?
Her hat, this lone woman's hat, bobbing alone in a screen full of half-bald heads in the House of Commons.
Ah, a perfect visual metaphor for her isolation and her breaking into that male world.
A great non-verbal moment, capturing her initial struggle, her singularity.
Which, ironically, the film shows eventually gives way to the universal isolation of aging.
That's the journey the film charts, according to this source. From political singularity to universal human fragility. The focus shifts completely.
So, summing up the review's perspective, Streep is astounding. The structure is challenging but purposeful, and the core message is deeply human rather than political.
Pretty much. The final verdict is clear.
Yeah.
It's worth watching for Streep's performance alone. It's that good.
But there's a catch, isn't there? Something about rewatchability.
Ah, yes. Drawn from comments reacting to the review, the consensus seems to be it's brilliant, powerful, but maybe a once-is-enough kind of film.
Why is that? Too heavy?
Probably. Emotionally draining, structurally demanding. It makes an impact, but maybe not when you want to revisit casually. It sticks with you, but maybe not comfortably.
Understood. A film to admire, perhaps, more than to enjoy repeatedly. Which leaves us with a final thought to consider. If even the formidable power and conviction of the Iron Lady, all those achievements, ultimately bow to the inescapable human experiences of aging, memory loss, and grief. Well, what does that say about the real permanence of political power when faced with our shared human condition?
A heavy question indeed. Something for you all to chew on.